Good afternoon, everyone. We will call the Public Safety Committee meeting to order here at 12:30. Thank you all for being here. And we've got a full dais today, which is great. We'll kick things off with a presentation and update by the Police Department regarding the monthly crime statistics and the records unit. Welcome, Chief Winstrom.
Good afternoon, committee members. Let's see here. All right, yeah. Is there anyone from a different generation here that knows technology? Thank you, sir.
Someone from a different generation that knows
Yeah,
technology.
or that is actively wearing glasses.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thanks, Asante. Okay, so this is, I guess, our last update for 2023, and we can see the homicide number, obviously an improvement from 2020, but still we sit at 22 murders, which is 22 too many. I will say that of note, we did an examination this morning, and seven of those homicides have domestic aspects to it, which is somewhat of it is an increase from years past. As you can see, detectives are doing an extremely good job. Last presentation, I believe we had 6 cleared murders. We've now closed by arrest and prosecution 11 of the 22 murders to put us at about 50%. And nationally, the average is slightly above that. But it's too early to get those numbers. If you look at years past, that's more telling, and you see we're far above the national average, and that's a testament to the exceptional work of the detectives. 412 illegally possessed guns recovered by our officers. It doesn't begin to tell the story, but that's over 1 a day. I got a message from Vice Lieutenant this morning. Detectives did a phenomenal job conducting a search warrant. They recovered 4 stolen firearms from an offender just this morning, so that number will end the year much higher. And each one of those is a potential for violence, whether it's violence of the gun in the hands of an offender or violence in the act of arresting these individuals possessing these guns. So the fact that we've taken that many illegally possessed guns off safely is again, says something about how effective and professional the officers on this street are. Auto thefts, you can see, are fortunately trending down after the Kia and Hyundai surge, which began in 2022. And if you look a little more into that, you'll see last summer was the biggest spike. We did not see that same spike this summer, and we've continued to see it trending down, and we hope that that continues, not only with education of the public, with cooperation, especially from those involved in the youth criminal justice system, but also those many people involved in improving the opportunities for youth in the city of Grand Rapids, whether it's academics or arts or sports. We've just seen so much support following the spike last year in youth crimes that we've seen such a great improvement this year. Aggravated assaults are trending in the right direction, and robberies show a much better picture, as you can see. I hope that trend continues through 2024. I will say, too, we're at officially as of this morning, if you include the 14 individuals who are now in service training and the 11 individuals who begin the police academy in just a week or two, we will have a total of 295 employees. Now, granted, there will be some attrition during the time that that training takes place, so there will be more vacancies, but we are beating out attrition by far and headed in the right direction, and it's looking better every day, and that's because of the great support of the city leaders and, of course, the talented leaders in the police department and the police officers getting the word out that Grand Rapids Police Department is a good place to work. Okay, before we take questions, I think I'll just kick it over to Connor Smith, head of our records unit, for a presentation on our records unit. And it is right there. I don't have my glasses on, thanks.
All right, thank you, Chief. Get this going up here. Hi, City Manager, City Attorney, Commissioners, and member of the committee. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Connor Smith. I am the Records Unit Manager at the Police Department. Today we're going to be doing a little overview of the unit itself, talking about what the Records Unit is. We're going to talk about the 2 different teams that we have. We're going to talk about our staffing and how that's increased in the past year. Then we're going to touch a little bit on the Freedom of Information Act, give an update on the increase of requests that we've had for that, and then we're going to provide an update to the firearms legislation and give some information for that as well. So what is the Records Unit? For those of you that don't know, the Records Unit is a non-sworn unit within the police department. We are located right downtown on Monroe Center. Our hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:45 p.m. Some things that we do are provide customer service and information resources and law enforcement records to members of the public, as well as other local, state, and federal government agencies. Some of the services that we provide include, and this doesn't encompass everything that we do, but some of the major things that we do, which include fingerprinting. We process background checks for license to purchase a pistol. We also release crash reports and incident reports, and those 4 things are things that are done mostly by one of our teams that we like to call the front desk team, who does the customer service-based things for the unit. We also process Freedom of Information Act requests, process subpoenas, and discovery. Those are things that are done mostly by our records release team. We also assist people over the phone and in person with various criminal justice inquiries. Some people have questions about how to get a record expunged or questions about their criminal history. They may call in to ask how to obtain a report, how to obtain a crash report, things of that nature. We also provide assistance to the police department internally with officers and above, and other law enforcement agencies across America. And again, those courts, other local, state, and federal government agencies such as CPS, 17th Circuit Court, probation, parole, things of that nature. So here we have a description of our team. This is the entire records unit team. As mentioned, we have the front desk team. Those are the ones listed at the top. And then we have our records release team, which is everyone on the bottom row. In our records release team, we have 4 city employees. We are currently in the process of hiring 1 vacant position. And then we also have 2 contracted Dew Point employees. Everyone on the bottom row is going to be the team that processes those Freedom of Information Act requests, subpoenas, and discovery. And then everyone on the top, again, is that customer service-based team who sits at the front in the lobby, answers those questions over the phone and in person. 5 of these positions have actually been created within the past year. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in the next couple slides when we talk about the Freedom of Information Act. To put some numbers to the amount of work that the records unit does, I wanted to list some statistics on here. These statistics are the average over the past 3 years for the unit. Every year we review and release somewhere between 15 to 20,000 police reports. And as mentioned, those have been released to members of the public. They can be released to other law enforcement agencies, other governmental agencies, under subpoena, under FOIA. We also process around 2,000 record checks for law enforcement. We process about 250 background checks for license to purchase. We're going to talk about that a little bit more when Bray takes over and discusses the update to the firearms legislation, because that number is going to change within the next year. We do about 500 fingerprint appointments every year, 41 subpoenas. We enter about 4,300 firearms registrations into the Michigan State Police database. It's called My Pistol. And then the biggest thing that the front desk team does, and a lot of the things on this screen right here are things that the front desk team does, but a majority of what they do is that assistance over the phone and in person. And as you can see the numbers on the screen, we help around 7,000 people a year over the phone and about 4,000 over the counter with those various criminal justice inquiries that they have. So rolling into more of the work that the records release team does, that's going to be the Freedom of Information Act. The FOIA, as some of you know, allows the public access to police records to get a firsthand account of the inner workings of the government. This is a process that creates transparency between the department or the city or any government agency and its citizens. A FOIA request can be for anything such as simply a copy of a police report, or it could be a little bit larger, asking for audio, video, photos, police report, or it could be even bigger, asking for an entire homicide case file of records, which could be, I've seen them up to 4 banker boxes full of records. As you could probably tell, a request could take anywhere from 15 minutes to process to 150 hours to process just a single request, and then kind of everywhere in between there. This graph illustrates the increase in FOIA requests that we have had from 2018 to 2022. It's just a little over a 100% increase from beginning to end. Every year we have seen a roughly 10 to 25% increase in requests, and this year we are going to see around another 10% increase in requests. I had mentioned that we have created and have received 5 new positions within the records unit in the past year, and all 5 of those positions were created due to this increase in demand for FOIA requests with the records release team. So next I'm going to turn it over to Bray Brown, my colleague, and she's going to give you guys an update to the firearms legislation.
Good afternoon. I'm Bray Brown, Police Records Specialist at the Police Department, and I've worked there about 5 years. Effective mid-February of 2024, House Bills 4138 and 4142 are going to go into effect, and those are going to expand universal background checks to all firearm sales. So right now, the way it's set up is currently if somebody wants to purchase a handgun, which is a firearm that's 26 inches or shorter, they can go to the store, an FFL dealer, which is a federal firearms license dealer. They'll do the background check and then they can make their purchase there. Right now, if somebody wants to purchase a long gun, so something like a shotgun or rifle, they can just go to the store and no background check is run. If somebody currently wants to buy a handgun from a private seller, they do need to go to their local law enforcement agency, get a background check done, they'll get a license to purchase, and then they can make that purchase, or they can transfer a firearm, from a private family member. So with these new changes that are going into effect, when if somebody wants to purchase a handgun either from a store or from a private seller, they are actually going to have to go to the police department first, get a background check, get that license to purchase, and then they can either take that to the store to make their purchase, or again, they can make that private sale or transfer. And then additionally, with those law changes, with the purchase of long guns, people can still go to the store, make those purchases, but a background check will now be done on those. And then for a private sale of a long gun, they will need to come to the police department first to get a background check, and then they can purchase that long gun. People who, and this will not change, this is how it is right now, but people who currently have a concealed pistol license through the state, our certified through MCOLS, so it's going to be like your law enforcement, or if they have a federal firearms license, they do not need a background check to purchase a firearm. One of the other changes with that firearm law, it will now make it the responsibility of the seller, once they've made their sale, to bring in the firearm sales record to the police department to make sure that the firearm gets registered. And currently, it is the responsibility of the individual who purchases the firearm, so that will be a change. So that means that moving forward, once these laws go into effect, every few days, gun stores will be sending those firearm sales records to the police department so that they can get entered into that Michigan State Police database to get those registered. So with all of these new changes, that could potentially mean a heavier workload for the records unit, because right now, all of the background checks for those license to purchase and those firearm registrations are done by that front desk team. So currently, the front desk enters about 4,300 pistol sales records into that Michigan State Police database, and they do about 247 background checks for those license to purchase. Typically, it takes about 15 to 20 minutes at bare minimum for them to do a background check for that license to purchase. And the majority of them do actually take a bit longer because we have to reach out to, other law enforcement agencies, the courts, other states, so that we can verify things on someone's background. So that does translate to about 82 hours that are spent by the front desk processing those background checks for license to purchase. So moving forward, when those new bills go into effect, we'll still be registering about 4,300 firearms because it's not changing the number of firearms that are being registered. It's going to increase the number of background checks that we're doing. So we're projecting about 3,500 background checks will need to be processed by the front desk to get those licensed to purchase, because not only will we be doing it for private sales for pistols, but it will be for pistols purchased at the store and then those long guns as well. So that is going to equate to an estimated 1,166 hours that will now be spent processing those background checks for those licensed to purchase. And that's about the amount that a part-time employee would, be doing their work for an entire year, just spent on processing those background checks for those licensed to purchase.
All right. Ray and Connor, you guys do such an exceptional job every day in your team, so it shouldn't be surprising, but excellent job. I do want to point out both in the FOIA diagram that you see, that you saw trending up, doesn't quite take into account everything, and that's because as technology changes, more and more of those FOIAs are changed from what they were 10 years ago, which is a request for a piece of paper, to now what they're requesting in-car camera, body-worn camera, different surveillance video, which is exponentially more work for this team to redact and review. Additionally, as Bray mentioned, 1,100 hours potentially. That is a significant increase in time. So we as an organization, we're going to assess and see moving forward once that legislation comes into play to see if that turns into a request for additional personnel for this fantastic team. And with that, we'll take any questions related to anything. Anything at all.
Colleagues, questions? Commissioner Moody?
Thank you, Chief, for the report. I wanted to ask the question in reference to the violence that took place in the Third Ward. I appreciate you breaking down the fact that 7 of those cases, I think I heard you say, were domestic cases.
There was a domestic factor in at least 7 of those cases, and we do have a few completely unsolved homicides, so that number could increase.
And normally, the homicide cases that have been somewhat cleared have been, I think you said, average of 55%?
Average across the nation, according to the FBI, is 55%. We've already solved half of the homicides in Grand Rapids this year. We do expect, we have some cases which are already in the prosecutorial process, so we know that that number is increasing, and I'm confident that we'll mirror the numbers that we've seen in the past, well above 70%, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's good for the community to know, especially those in the Third Ward where we had a lot of shootings that take place. The community needs to know that those cases, a majority of them have been solved already. And that it's always good to know that they are always not drug-related or gang-related. It's unfortunately that they are deaths that do occur.
Yep.
But understanding that some of those cases are caused by domestic situations is important to know. Now, next question is that when it comes to the House Bill 4138 and 4142, I think Ms. Bree was speaking in reference to long guns. Are those long guns? When I think of long guns, are we referring to automatic weapons as well?
So I'm not entirely, so essentially you would have to get a background check if you're not purchasing a long gun, any type of long gun, if it's 27 inches or more. If you're purchasing that from a store, you would go to the store and they would run the background check on you. Previously, I'm not sure if there was background checks for automatic, but if there was
Yeah, I will say, Commissioner, so it is possible in the state of Michigan to purchase a fully automatic weapon. Now, when you're talking about an AR-15, which is semi-automatic, which is shoot every time you pull the trigger, that would fall under this new bill. The rules for obtaining an actually fully automatic gun are extremely more difficult and usually restricted to federal firearms licensed possessors. So most of the time, it will still be very illegal to own a fully automatic weapon of any sort, but anything above, is it 26 inches?
Yeah.
Will now be the responsibility of the background check for the police department.
Okay, thank you. Does that include mail orders too?
If they're residents of Grand Rapids, yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank all 3 of you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Sassi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say, as the chair of the FOIA Appeals Board for the city, I just wanted to say, I know that's only a fraction of what you all do, but that we have had a number of appeals come towards us. You guys are always prepared, Connor, Ms. Smith, so I appreciate just the preparedness and working directly hand in hand with the law department. So I think we've had 4 this year, looking for a head nod from a deputy attorney, city attorney. But I know that takes a lot of time and energy. And outside of completing the FOIA, there's a lot of communications from the department actually directly with people. So, is this what you really need? What are you looking for to help answer those questions so that people can also, hopefully we can save people some money and some resources. So I know sometimes we might not see everything that goes into it by the time it comes to our office, if you will. So thank you for this work. Thank you for underlying, I think we see these things happen on the state level. And I think understanding the impact of these new bills and how it will impact the city. That's really helpful to get a point of view, also to continue to educate people and be part of that. And just thank you for the presentation today.
Very good. Other questions or comments?
I just wanted to commend the recruiting efforts that have been taking place. It's good to see the county getting closer to the 300, and we do know that there will be retirements that will be happening, and it will be transpiring, but at least we're going to hear the efforts that are, coming to fruition, so that's to be commended.
Thank you, Pastor. And we do have a great team in regards to retirements as well. We do have the option in our pension program to retain individuals who opt in for as much as 5 years. And we have seen progress as well. And individuals just this past few weeks, I think we had either 2 or 3 individuals who have decided to stay past their eligibility for pension. So that's been fantastic change too for us.
Mr. Kettle.
I was taken by the last slide. It says House Bill 4138 would result in some additional administrative costs. Are they backfilling that for us or not?
Is the state,
Yeah.
is this an unfunded?
Mandate, exactly.
Unfunded mandate. It's interesting, I just had the same conversation with the mayor earlier. So it's the bitter and the sweet. The sweet is this is gun legislation reform, and we wanted to get more proactive on gun violence, and so there's a cost to it, and it seems much of the cost is burden at the local level. I'm wondering are there any other resources to assist communities in transitioning to this state mandated process? Not aware. Okay.
I don't believe that was, if it was thought about, I don't think that it made it into the legislation.
So we certainly can follow up on that, because that was a discussion I had earlier. And while I have the mic, in line with those cost efficiencies, I'm wondering if, since it's the same process that we were doing 247 times, now we have to do 3,500 times, is there a way to have efficiency with some type of automated process, either statewide or locally, where there is some type of electronic file transfer where everything doesn't have to be re-entered? Is there rekeying of the application when it comes to the police department, or is it transferred electronically from the dealer?
Unfortunately, we're kind of handcuffed to the MSP. We use MSP system. So whereas hopefully they're always mindful of making progress and efficiency, it is their system that we use.
Well, so instead of the state funding, maybe we can ask for more state efficiency in these processes.
I'll ask you a clarifying question too then. So currently, if you go to a federal firearms dealer to purchase a long gun or a pistol, they perform a background check at time of purchase through whatever NICS or whatever it's called, the background check thing, and that counts as your process. If you purchase a pistol, you have to bring the pistol sale receipt to your local jurisdiction. With the change in the legislation, same process applies for long guns. You're still going through the background check, but you'd have to bring a record of purchase to the local unit of government. Is that what I'm trying to get at? Is that how it plays out? And then ultimately, if you purchase a long gun from an individual, you're not currently required to have a background check done on a person-to-person sale, but you are on a pistol sale. So if you buy a pistol, you need to have a permit, which is what you're talking about here.
Correct. So if you're getting a long gun, if you're going to a store to buy a long gun, they are going to continue running a background. Well, previously, I don't even know if they did a background, but they will start doing background checks for long gun purchases.
They do that now.
The change is if you are buying a pistol, so 26 inches or less, from a store, you have to first go to your law enforcement agency. They run the background check through NICS, you were correct, and then they go to the store with their license to purchase to buy their pistol. You do not have to turn in a registration for the long gun. You just have the form. You do not have to turn that into your law enforcement agency, only for pistols. Pistols are still going to be the only thing that's registered. That's why the number on the screen at the top there stays the same. The long guns are not going to be registered, but they will require a background check for those third-party purchases, person to person.
But the dealer can't do the background check now.
Only if you're buying the gun from the FFL or the long gun from the FFL or the store. But if you wanted to sell a long gun to a friend, you would have to go, your friend would have to go get the license to purchase. Does that make sense? Okay.
Just want to make sure that was clarified. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you very much for these presentations. We'll now move on to the Office of Emergency Management graduates, first ever Community Emergency Response Team class. Ms. Froley, welcome.
All right, good afternoon, Commissioners. So yes, we have myself, Allison Froley, and then Allison Donovan, so two Allisons, who is actually the program manager that was hired in April to start this program. So we're excited to come here and talk about our first graduating class for the Community Emergency Response Team, otherwise known as CERT. Just to give you a little background on what CERT is and the mission of it and why we felt that we needed to develop this program here for the city of Grand Rapids. So the mission for our CERT team is building a resilient and self-sufficient community through disaster preparedness, education, and volunteerism. Overall, when it comes to preparing for, responding to, and recovering from emergencies, we always look at what we call a whole community approach. And this is a big piece of that whole community approach, is to really engage and to educate our community members to be able to do that with us. So a little bit about what CERT is. This program offers a consistent nationwide approach to volunteer training and education and organization. It educates our volunteers about disaster preparedness for all hazards that may occur here in the city of Grand Rapids. And it also allows us, for the Office of Emergency Management, to have a cadre of trained volunteers that we can call upon to come and help before, during, and after a major disaster. So a little bit of history. CERT is not anything new. This was developed and implemented out in California by the Los Angeles Fire Department in 1985 after a major earthquake that actually happened in Mexico. So they took that as a sign that we really needed to develop a program to educate the community, to really, again, have that whole community approach to help get our community back up and running. This became a national program in 1993, so it's been around for 30 years. And actually, if you look across the country, there's CERT programs all in a variety of different states and communities of all size and shapes. Really, it's exciting that we are able to start this program here for the city of Grand Rapids. Overall, this program has trained more than 600,000 people across the country to be able to have those skills to be able to help during the emergencies. So why did we feel it was necessary to bring CERT here to Grand Rapids? One thing that I realized and listened to a lot when I first came here in 2019 and talking to our neighborhood associations and just community in general was this desire to have a CERT program. They had heard about it through other communities and really wanted to have that here in their own backyard to be able to have those skills and to be able to help when necessary. In addition to that, it was really important for us to be able to have the a cadre of trained affiliated volunteers. As you may all know, that when we have disasters, everyone wants to help, but it becomes a whole second disaster if we don't have a list of trained volunteers that we can actively call on and manage and know their levels of skills. So this really helps us as the Office of Emergency Management to be leaning forward and be able to start building that cadre. It's also free. So all the training that we are providing to our community members is free. It really, at that time, it's the time commitment that we ask them to commit to be able to get those skills and to be able to be part of this volunteer program. And then also it is managed by the Office of Emergency Management. We have full control in regards to how we activate those volunteers, how we train them, and being able to, in a very strategic and slow process of building up a group of trained volunteers. So I want to talk a little bit about what CERT does, or CERT volunteers are going to do, and what we are looking at and envisioning for these volunteers. So on what we call blue sky days, so on days that we don't have major disasters going on every day, hopefully most of our time, we want to find ways of engaging and including our CERT volunteers where necessary. In addition, we're still a two-person shop, right? There's a lot of work that goes into emergency management, especially when we're trying to do our best to engage in the community and be everywhere at once to build those connections. So we can really look at our CERT volunteers to help with that. We also have a lot of special events and different things happening in our community where we can potentially incorporate CERT volunteers to help support those activities. So as you see here on the slide, talk about parades and special events, fairs, community outreach and other training opportunities, and other ways that we can really keep them engaged and to support our community. But when we do have disasters or what we call gray sky days, we obviously want to engage with those volunteers. So those volunteers will always be activated by the Office of Emergency Management and by me as the Emergency Management Administrator in coordination with our fire chief, our police chief, city manager, and other leaders. And when we start determining that we need additional hands to come in and help, we will be able to call upon these CERT volunteers to come in and do that if they're available. So a lot of it is support. So that's their roles, coming in, supporting the operations of response and mainly recovery. So these are just some very small points of how CERT volunteers can be used. And to be honest, of how I've used CERT in the past to really support operations and seen the success with that. So that can be through response operations, supporting that in a variety of different ways. What we call points of distribution. So if there's needs to distribute supplies to our community, we always need bodies to help with that. Also with damage assessment and other elements of recovery, again, when we need people to do things, this is again another group of folks that we can call on and rely on to help come and support everything we're doing from a response and recovery standpoint. So to give you an understanding of what the training looks like and how we've put this together for this past fall and how we plan to move forward with this, we've broken down the training into what we call level 1 and level 2. One thing through my experience of this program over the years is that sometimes folks just want a basic understanding and education on how to prepare themselves, but not necessarily commit the time to become what we call a volunteer. So we've broken it down to level 1, where it's a 3-hour class. They come and learn general personal preparedness, get a little bit about fire safety, a little bit of what we call disaster medical operations, and really just have a little bit of basic skills to take home with them. And then after that, if they are interested and have the time and the ability to commit to 7 more weeks of training, then they go through what we call level 2. These are about 2.5 weeks of, 2.5 hours of training each week, to where then they dive into these additional skills that are listed here on the screen. So the skills that they learn is what we call CERT organization, or in the public safety world, it's incident command structure, or ICS. So we want to make sure they understand how disasters are managed. Then they go through all these different topics to learn about disaster medical operations. It's kind of similar to first aid, what disaster psychology is, and how to really notice the impacts of disaster on themselves and those around them. And then other topics as listed here as well. And one thing I do want to note is that when we go and offer these classes, especially each week of different topics, we actually partner with different departments and organizations in our community to facilitate these discussions. So this last fall, we had our EMS coordinator from the fire department come in and do a portion of the disaster medical operations. We've had KSIMs come in as well, and to be able to do that, another portion of disaster medical operations. We've had our fire prevention unit come in and do the fire safety side. So again, we'll continue to build those cadre of instructors to really also give their perspective on these topics, and then also to build those relationships as well with our community members. Once they've gone through that training, again, engagement's huge when we have a volunteer program. We want to make sure that we're offering additional training to build their skills up and to also, again, continue that engagement. So this is a very short list of potential additional trainings that we may offer down the road. But again, we want to make sure that we continue to get them engaged, build their skills, and even offer refresher trainings as well as necessary. So with that, everything that we put together, and then Ms. Donovan put together for this fall, is we were able to graduate our first class a few weeks ago. So here is a picture of our very first and inaugural CERT program and CERT class for Grand Rapids, and we were able to graduate a total of 16 individuals in this class. So this is very exciting, and we look forward to be able to offer this again every spring and fall, and have that same level 1, level 2 style with this. And I do want to also note that even with this last fall on our level 1 classes, we had 3 of them. We maxed out at 30 people per class. And we don't want to have more than 30 in our actual level 2 class just for span of control. But we do currently have a wait list of over 100 people waiting to take this in the spring. So this is very exciting. It's obvious that this is a much needed program for our community. And I will tell you, Allison Donovan has worked her tail off since coming here in April and really developing a robust program to be able to, for it to be engaging, effective, and actually fun for our community members to be part of. So we look forward to continuing this and to really building that list of volunteers. And also, you know, it's new, so working through the tweaks of that and hopefully finding ways that we can continue to engage our community and to build that. And this is all also because of the FEMA Regional Catastrophic Preparedness Grant that we were awarded last year as well, to be able to start this program in addition to hiring Allison Donovan to do this work. So with that, I want to thank you, and also Allison Donovan's information is up here if anybody's interested in learning more about CERT or even getting on the list to sign up for our spring training.
Very good. Colleagues, questions, comments?
I just wonder what the age range is to be a CERT volunteer, the level 2.
Yeah, great question. So right now, we are allowing anybody the age of 18 and over to participate. And our goal eventually down the road is to also develop a section of CERT to include the youth as well. So that's coming.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Commissioner Sassi?
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. And I just had 2 questions. One was around, like, with the volunteers and pieces that we just, last week talked about the changes to our agenda management system and talked a lot about some of the added benefits of additional languages. What is that? What does accessibility in these disaster environments look like in terms of multiple languages and even things like sign language for individuals who might need that? And then just wondered how other agencies are connected. And then are there any schools in our region that are really, I guess I'm not as familiar with, who might be training and really kind of highlighting emergency management as a career, just thinking about the evolution. We talk about this, being a climate change refugee city and, just all these other weather events and different things that have come forward. That's one faction of what you do, but those are my 2 questions.
Yeah, so that's actually a conversation that Allison and I have probably on the daily, is about trying to find ways of being able to include the whole community, especially in the CERT training and other public outreach and education. So around CERT, this is obviously something we are looking to grow and expand on, how we can really engage those that may not necessarily speak English as a first language or have other access and functional needs. So that's something we're really working through and identifying, and also looking at other CERT programs on the country to figure out how do they do it, and so we can make sure that this is truly accessible to everyone, right? The other piece of that is another part of what Allison Donovan does as well, is through connecting with different organizations in the community, and especially those that we want to build those relationships with to expand their level of resilience. And actually, we have an event that we're going to tonight in regards to one of those areas as well. I lost my train of thought, but yes, so we're definitely doing a lot of that work. And also, I think we're trying to do it in a very methodical and strategic way so that we're being able to really authentically connect. And so we're working through it. And that's also a very important part of why we've had this position added to my office, is to really expand those opportunities.
Yes.
And I apologize if I missed this detail, but it sounds like there's a lot of enthusiasm for this program, given your waiting list. What is the time commitment or constraints for the training itself? How long is one committing to, and how often are they meeting to attain sort of the graduate level here?
Sure. So the training program is actually a time commitment, right? It's a very upfront time commitment. It's a total of 8 weeks worth of training. So it's about 25 hours. Yeah, 25 hours of training to go through. Now, after that, as far as what does engagement look like or time commitment looks like, it really varies, and depending on what's going on in our community, and also we're trying to come up with a schedule of additional training and refreshers to keep folks engaged. So I would say it's once you go through training, I don't anticipate it being a huge commitment per se, but also one of the things that we really emphasize when we're talking to folks going through the training is that when we do have disaster strike, we want to make sure them as an individual and their families are taken care of first. That comes number one, right? So we don't want them to feel like they have to show up to be part of the group every time there's a disaster, even if they're personally impacted. So really having those conversations to make sure they take care of themselves and do what's best for them, because we all have a time and place when we're available and willing and able to contribute to our community, and we want to make sure that they're always engaged and being connected to.
Quick follow-up to that, and thank you. Is this a daytime course? Is it evenings? Is it weekends? How do people...
Yep, right now it's in the evenings during the week, but we are also looking at expanding it to holding it on the weekends, maybe once or twice a year, again, to really expand those schedules and those opportunities.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about any direct linkage with public schools. Seems to me that teachers would be well suited to learn all this, and obviously you need buildings for shelter, all that kind of stuff, so.
Yep, definitely. And we are looking to really connect with whoever's interested in growing this program, and even additional just general education as well. So we are very much open to that connection.
Question. If there is a disaster where all levels of communication is out, how do you plan to communicate?
Well, you go old school, really utilize our relationships in the community to go door to door, face to face, find all opportunities we can. Also utilize our resources like Verizon and AT&T to bring in what we call COWS and communications on wheels to help bring back that level of connection and data and cell phone service. So I think there's a lot to that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you have any information about like the distribution of people that have been certified across the city? Like, is it pretty uniform per neighborhood, per ward, or are there like pockets where if there were an event, there would be a kind of deficiency of people that were certified in this to be able to respond?
I think we're too early to really know since we just graduated 16 people. I will tell you that for level one thing that we are trying to do our best on is hold one level one class in each ward. So trying to bring that to their neighborhoods, right? And so it's not necessarily a perfect model, but I think we're doing our best to really connect with all different parts of our community. And I think as we go through time, maybe in a year, we can have a better understanding of what do our numbers look like in each of those areas.
Do you think you would, because you mentioned some of the contact you had with neighborhood associations, do you think you would target specific neighborhood associations as like, okay, cool?
Most definitely. We've definitely worked with our neighborhood associations in promoting CERT and getting folks to attend the training. We've actually had some of our key neighborhood association leaders take at least level one, and some of them were able to go through level two as well. So definitely getting them first so they can really go out and advocate the importance of having others join.
So of these 16 grads, how many are level one? How many are level two?
They're all level 1, so you have to complete level 1 to get to level 2.
Okay.
So just to clarify on that, level 1 is strictly a 3-hour class you only take once, and it's there to give you just that basic education. Level 2 dives deeper over 7 weeks of more intense and focused skill training to be an actual CERT volunteer. So if somebody finished level 1 but did not complete level 2, they are not considered to be a CERT volunteer. So you have to complete level 2 to be considered a CERT volunteer.
And what is the commitment level of those that have graduated from level 2?
It depends on what we've got going on. It really varies on either what's going on in our community when it comes to disaster emergency standpoint, but also we're working on developing what that training and engagement schedule looks like as we move through 2024.
Thank you.
How many of those 16 are going to take the level 2?
They've already taken level 2.
Oh, they all took level 2?
Yes, so
Oh,
level
they're
2
all
is
done.
mandatory to graduate and to be part of the CERT volunteer organization.
Oh, okay. I thought they had just taken the one.
No, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
no
All right,
worries.
Thank you.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you so much for the presentation and appreciate your work on this.
Thank you.
And with that, we will adjourn the public safety meeting at 1:16. Thank you, everyone.